All right, so today we got a little project here. Track bike needs some springs. I'm just a little bit too big for the front fork springs we got in there, so we got ourselves a nice set from Racetech here. We're going to try popping those in. At least we'll see how badly we can screw it up before we have to take it into the mechanic to fix. So first thing, I have hoisted the bike up in the air, hoisted the front end up just off the ceiling of my shop with a couple ratchet straps. I think that's gonna work for us, get the front end off the ground. So next I'll take the front tire off and start loosening off the clamps for the forks. Pretty straightforward. See what we can do. All right, so we got, let's double check here. Yeah, we got these pinch bolts backed off. It'd be nice if we had a tool for this in the toolkit that comes with the bike, but of course there isn't. They do make fancy those multi-sized nut tools for specifically for taking these nuts out. You can cheat though if you got a bolt and a couple nuts to jam on there. Throw it in. Of course you're turning on the nut that jams up against the other side here, and I did pre-loosen that a bit beforehand, so that makes her nice and easy for taking the nut out of there. The pinch bolts on the other side, of course, are still done up just to get this loosened off here. So I'll just take her about about that far for right now, and I'll run around and do the other side as well. So pretty straightforward, nothing complicated here. Oh yeah, I took the loosened off the front fender here. It's attached to the brake line. The fender doesn't really have to come off. You just got to get it detached from the fork legs here. So let's go do the other side. Okay, so the other side's undone there now. Spin the rest of that out. There it goes. And we'll push out the axle shaft. There we go. That would be the axle shaft. One tire out of there. So now we got the fender free of the fork legs here. Next thing we got to do is loosen the clamps up on top here. We're going to hit the pinch bolts on top. Don't forget the ones holding the clip-ons on there as well. There's a couple more down inside there. Those are a little trickier to get at, but we'll hit those up here in a sec, and that'll free up the fork legs to drop right out of there. Here you can see I've got a zip tie on. So the idea with these is you put a zip tie on there, slide it up, and then as the spring in the fork compresses, the dust seal is going to push that down, and you can find your maximum limited travel there. Mine, as you saw, was right down in the bottom, indicating I'm using the entire travel and bottoming out there. So hence the reason for the new springs. Alright, so we got things loosened off here. It's real helpful to pull the little side cover here to get at the bolts, pinch bolts down on the lower triple clamp there. So I've just got this one kind of snug just to hold her in place. We'll back that out and just start gently working that thing down. There we go. One fork out. Alright, let's get the other one out. Okay, so that's that. Got a pair of forks out of there, and those things need to be cleaned. So nothing too spectacular there, pretty straightforward, pretty easy to do. Next part is starting to bust into the internals. That's going to have to wait for another night. I've got a meeting I got to go to. Alright, so back at her. Here we've got one of the fork legs here, taking off the cap, not too difficult. Just hit her there, spin her off, not too hard. You end up like this inside. This part isn't under tension here at all, but this here is a preload spacer, and that is under tension under there. Basically, you got to pull this down to be able to get at the nut in there, to be able to take this cap off so you can get the whole spring. So there is a fancy tool you can buy from Kawasaki that'll do that, and I think Racetech has one. Or you can get a little ingenuity and build something. So I just took like some, I don't know, 1.25 inch box tubing, chopped a little chunk in there, welded a couple nuts and some 3/8 bolts. The holes here are 10 mil, so 3/8 ends up working okay. So the way that works is you just slip her over, align the holes with the bolts, and screw them in. Now I've seen all kinds of apparatuses that you can use for compressing this in here, but again, I don't have those, but I do have lots of ratchet straps that seem to work good. So a ratchet strap, hooker on there, ratchet strap, hooker on here. That's looking nice. I'm going to untwist that a little. That's going to have to slide through there, like so. You can tension that down a bit by hand. Get that going. Try to be gentle. Don't mess up your fork leg too bad. And there you go, right? So now you got that detached. You can get at that nut, which is what we're going to bust off next here. And yeah, I'll pull you back in once I got that done. All right, so I got the nuts broken there, a little lock nut. Now we're just going to spin off the cap here. And that gets into the damper rod there. So that's the little needle at the bottom that controls the, what is that, compression or rebound? That would be rebound damping. So let's put that down on the bench here. We'll give it a quick wipe. Keep it clean. The rest of that's just right there. So now I'm going to put this down on the ground to release this while holding it. Okay. There we go. So I got that undone. Lots of oil in there that wants to kind of come out because I'm creating a bit of a vacuum as I pull that out. So I'm gonna drain this out here next, and then we'll pull the spring out of there. All right, so lots of oil going everywhere. Now I can get this thing out, and buried down in there is a spring. There we go. So that would be the old spring we're replacing. Let's compare that to a new one. Old one, new one. New one is a heavier gauge, and I don't know, maybe half an inch longer, maybe 9/16, something like that. So definitely give those a feel. Yeah, they feel kind of the same, but I know that one's is a little tighter for sure. So installation should be the opposite of disassembly here. But I'm going to take some time to clean that out, pump out the oil there, cycle the suspension a few times, it pumps out the oil. Make sure that we're clean before we put good stuff back in. Okay, so next step here, got everything all drained out. The spring is out of there. Next step, fill her up with oil. So I'm starting out with about 425 mils here. Things look clean. Specs from the book are 97 mils from the top, plus or minus 2, no spring, upper fork tube fully compressed. So We got that. We got that little thing here. We got to pump this a few times. Make sure all the oil's out. Hey, look at that. There's oil. We'll do it slowly. You want to make sure you get all the air out of there so you don't get a false reading, of course. Sliding the tube up and down there, of course, doesn't do anything until you've got the damper rod in there. Ooh, stuck it all the way in. Come back out. There is a special tool you can get to hold that there. And let's take a measurement. Wonder where my scale is. Okay, so I purposely put in less than we needed. There's 97. Just kind of dipping down at 1 centimeter increments. See where the level is at. We're way low, we're like at a beyond 130, 140, 150 mils, not even registering. So let's pour in more. Wonder if that's too much. Ooh, that's really close. Okay, that's 100. We're at about 103. We need to get down to 97, so we are just about in spec. Here's my rag. I want to make sure the scale is clean before I start dipping it in here. Okay, 97. That was 99 and I got like 2 mils on there. So hold my thumb at 97. Oh, it's like perfect. Nice, okay. So that's that. Drop in a spring. We've got our spacer here now. Make sure that sucker's clean. Oh, I see some stuff in there, so I'm going to, actually I can do that real quick here. Clean it like a gun, man. Ooh, yeah, that's perfect. Okay, so in we go. I think I just lost a couple mils. I should be careful with that. Okay. So the damper rod's going to go in there, but first we got to compress that thing. Here's our handy dandy little tool. Let's compress it in there. Ratchet strap, like so, like so. And compress away. Now, that should do the trick once I fish that thing out of there. So I'm going to get a wire to fish up the damping rod out of the hole there. Okay, so using a coat hanger, I got that rod fished up. So now we're going to gently feed this thing in. Without puking oil out everywhere. Nice. And we spin her on. Okay. We can get rid of the fish hook. Oh, we even got a couple wrenches here. Alright. Top one, 14 mil, bottom one. We'll just jam that in there. That's tight. Good, good. Stick that in there. And you can back this thing off really gently. Oh, why do I get the feeling somebody gets hurt here? Okay, one notch. 2 notches. Oh yeah, it's working. Dude, that's about got her. Make sure everything's looking nice and clean. Get that spacer lined. And I believe we're ready to close her up here. All right, one done. So I'm going to get that installed in the bike and then torque it tight in there. All right, not too bad. That's pretty easy. See how that feels. Oh yeah. That does feel a little bit harder than before. So, awesome. We'll get that all cleaned up, clean the oil off of there, and pop that back in the bike after we do the second one. Alright, so we got everything back together. Just the tops aren't torqued down yet. I'll do that once they're in the triple clamps there. Everything's back together and ready to go. So let's slip her back in here. See if we can find a hole where this fits. There we go. Okay. So, try and get that half close to the other one. I'll keep her in place there now. So next thing I'm going to do here is just set my ride height. Just as a starting point, I'm going for about 10 mil. So I've set it a little bit high. I've got the top clamp there just lightly snugged. And we'll dial that in till we're right at 10. Maybe half a mil more to go. Of course, if you're within a mil, that's just fine. Okay, so now both sides are even, and I can clamp that down. Of course, I'll be setting static sag and everything here shortly, once we get the wheel on and back on the ground and such. So let's now move to the bottom end. I'm going to take a few minutes here and drill all my fasteners for safety wire. So now I got to figure out those bolt heads there. So okay, let's get right on that. Okay, I think we're about ready to throw the wheel back in here. Got it in position. Give her a wipe. There it goes. Okay. I'm trying hard here to juggle this thing without touching the surface of the rotor. Okay. There it goes. Ready for the cap on the other side. We'll get that started. There we go. Now we can start winding in the nut here. So I'll get that in and tightened up, and then we'll look at aligning the axle and the forks. Alright, so we've got things on here now. Brake calipers are on both sides. Now I spread the pads before I put them on, so they're not really touching the rotor at all. And despite our best efforts to not be touching the rotor surface, I do see a little bit there. So we're going to take half a second just to give this a quick clean here. Just make sure there's no oil left on there. Got some on the rim there. Make sure there's no fingerprints left on there. It's looking pretty good. So I'll go around, I'll hit the back side of that as well as the other rotor. Alright, moment of truth. I think we can lower her down. Just going to make sure I've got enough tension on these upper clamps. They're the only thing that's tightened up right now. And they're not that tight. Just enough to hold the bike up in the air. Good. The lowers aren't done yet. Oh. Let's lower this down bit by bit here. One down. We're on the ground. All right. Now what I did forget to do is measure my static sag. So I'll do that after I get things together there at the bottom. When I get that axle clamped in there properly and aligned. So, we're down. Good.